Hey everyone, it's Hazel West, and I'm here with my March reading wrap up. So in March, I actually read quite a few books. While most of them were novellas, well, not most of them, some of them were novellas. I still ended up reading quite a few more books than I expected to. So for during March, I actually took part in a an online uh, sort of convention for indie authors that this one indie author and blogger set up. And because of that, a lot of us had our books up for free or for 99 cents. So I ended up reading a lot of books by the other authors to get to know them a little better. So that's why I ended up reading a lot of ebooks. And so I'll show you the ones that I read, like my hard copy books first, and then I'll show you my ebooks that I read. And I apologize because we're having like this huge thunderstorm right now. So if you hear thunder in the background, that's why. But I didn't have time to wait to film this once it was over, so we'll just have the ambiance. So the first book I read in March was The Thickety, The Well of Witches, which is book 3 in the Thickety series by J.A. White. This was the buddy read that my friend Mara and I did for March. And continuing with the series, it it just really just picks up where the second one left off. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it is a third book in a series, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really neat seeing what the author did with the Well of Witches, which is in this series. It's a place where um, it's kind of like where witches are, like bad witches are taken, kind of like a purgatory of sorts. Um, I'm not sure if it's where they go when they die per se. It's more like, I don't know. I don't remember all the nuances of it, but essentially, Kara ends up having to go there to find another witch. So, getting to see what he did with that world was really kind of cool. I didn't. This one was not as, um, it, it wasn't as deep and dark as the second one, but it was still a really good story. This one was kind of more um, on the adventure side of the series, and the last one is coming out actually today, the day that I'm filming this video, April 4th. So I'm really sad that the series is almost over, but I'm also really interested to see the conclusion because the way this one ended up, I think it's going to be a really action-packed book. So I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, and I cannot wait to see what the author does with the finale of the series. So after that, I picked up Winter Song by S.J. Jones um, from the library because I saw this one when it came out, and I was like, this sounds really, really good and really promising. Well, it wasn't. Um, I'm gonna link my review below, so because there's some spoilers and stuff that I don't really want to talk about. But overall, I just really, really hated this book. And it's kind of sad. It's not the worst book I've read. I mean, the writing style wasn't horribleness per se, but it's still like a 2-star book, maybe even like 1.5. But it was just so it dragged. Like, look, it's like 400 pages long. Well, probably about maybe 150 pages of this is actual plot. Like the first part wasn't terrible. I still didn't like the main character Liesel that much, but at least there was some kind of storyline and it gave you some sort of promise. But, and I was hoping it would get better, but then it just got worse and worse and worse. So essentially, this is, I don't even know what the original, well, typically, like, it's just deals with goblin fairy lore, but it's more like a retelling of that old movie, The Labyrinth. Um, and she took a lot from that movie, like just visually, in my opinion. But there was also, I mean, also, it did have some more like traditional fairy lore, which was the only redeeming value of this book. Um, but it was just it just dragged and dragged and dragged, and there was way too much like musical theory in it. Like, I do love music, but I am a folk musician. I don't deal with like this kind of stuff. And she got a lot wrong too. Like, she called it a forte piano instead of a pianoforte, and just other stuff. Like, it was just really, really annoying. Like, she had this whole information dump, but I don't think she really knew anything about the time period or anything. I don't know. And that's not even the worst part. Because essentially, like, there is just so much, like, sexual content in this book. It's disgusting, honestly. And because it's like, that's the only thing that can fix people and make them better, like, that is a horrible message for teenagers who will be reading this book. So it was all around bad. And you can read my review when I link it below, because I had to write one for this. And the whole spoiler thing is just like I'm not gonna say it in the video, but if you're curious, you can read the review. But that was just ridiculous. Like, there were so many plot lines in this that would have actually been interesting, but they didn't get any light because it was just it's just annoying. Like, I really, really hated this book. So Mara and I actually kind of did a buddy read on this one too, because she read it, and I'll have to link her wrap up video when she gets it up, so you can see what she has to say. But she didn't like it either. Spoiler alert. So, and then after that, I picked up Desolation by Derek Landy. This is the second book in the Demon Road trilogy. And last month's wrap up, I talked about how the second book made me stop reading the series. So I actually read two annoying books in a row. So I did enjoy Demon Road. I said that in my last video. But this book was just, I just didn't like it. And I had to DNF it about like maybe halfway through. I was just, so the main reason I DNF'd it was because we just randomly find out that her name's Amber. We just randomly find out that Amber is gay. Like, it was just thrown in there. There's absolutely no reason for it. I don't like books where you read like an entire book or several books in the series and then randomly find out the character's sexuality. That just annoys me. But that's not the only reason I didn't like this book either. Like, there was so much, I don't know, the first book was okay, because I thought, like, any of the things that I kind of didn't like as much, I figured, well, character development wise, it's, it has room to grow. But this one, it just doesn't. Like, I don't like the way he portrayed I don't really know what to call it. I'm blanking on the phrase. But I like how Amber viewed herself, like, and her demon side, and how she dealt with it, or how she didn't like, I don't know. She doesn't like her human side because it's weak and she's not very pretty and whatever. But her demon side makes her feel strong and pretty, so she likes that one better. Um, but, and I was like, well, it's a natural thing to feel, but the author has to deal with that in a way that lets the reader know that the character is grown. Unfortunately, that was not dealt with. It only got worse in this book. And reading reviews of this one and the third one too, is like, it was never addressed and it just got worse. So I ended up just deciding to DNF this, um, and like I didn't, like I said in the last one, the character Milo was my favorite character in this, and he's just not really in. He doesn't get a lot of page time in this. I mean, he's there, but he's not as cool. Like he's not as much of a character as in the first one. I don't know why. It's just, on the other hand, if Derek Landy decides he wants to write a book exclusively about Milo, I would not mind reading it. But anyway, so I gave this one. Well, I gave it 1 star. I DNF'd it, so I will not be continuing with that series, sadly. And that was like so much annoyance because I read 2 bad books like at the first start of the month. So then I actually picked up some books from my childhood, which is the Mythomania series by Kate McMullen. I read the first 2, Have a Hot Time Hades and Phone Home Persephone. These are like middle grade retellings of Greek mythology. I actually ended up buying the first 2 this month because I really, well, I'm kind of working on a project, the Greek mythology retelling, so I kind of wanted to read some, and I really wanted to read some that was not Rick Riordan, because it seems like people forget anymore that there are Greek mythology retellings that are not written by Rick Riordan. And I read quite a few of these as a kid. I think I read 3 or 4 of them, or I have 3 or 4 of them, as opposed to these that I just bought. But I kind of like to rebuy them. Now, the only problem is that these were not the covers I wanted. Like, these are the reprints, and I don't like them. But I bought them used, and I didn't really know what the covers would be, because I ordered them online. But anyway, that's beside the point. I gave both of these 3 out of 5 stars. They're really just fun reads. I really like them because, like, Hades is the main character. He, like, narrates the stories, and it's kind of like it's sort of like disproving what happened like in the traditional legends, and how that wasn't the actual story, because that was just Zeus being a jerk. And so I always like that, because I think Hades is a character in Greek mythology who got a lot of bad rap, because he actually wasn't one that did a bunch of stupid stuff like Zeus and Poseidon. But anyway, so I enjoyed both of these and revisiting the series. I don't think I'd read either of these before, because I don't think my library had any. I think I just bought some, like, whenever I found them. But anyway, so, yeah, this was nice reading after all the really stupid books that I ended up reading this month. So, both of those were 3 out of 5. I enjoyed them. And then I was still in a reading slump, so I decided to do a reread, and I picked up The Near Witch by Victoria Schwab. It's been several years since I read this one, and I just really felt like reading something kind of fairy tale-ish, but that was not Winter Song, essentially, because I really, like, before Winter Song, I really felt like reading fairy tale retellings, and then after it, I was like, I don't even want to see a fairy tale retelling again, which makes me sad, because those are, like, some of my favorite books. But anyway, I love The Near Witch. This is Victoria Schwab's debut novel, actually, and it's so good. It's actually interesting to go back and read it, like, after her other books, too, and see kind of how she has developed as an author. Not that this was bad, but you can always kind of tell when it, I mean, she still had her voice, obviously, but I loved this book. I loved the characters, and I'll link my review for this one down below too, because I actually have a review on Goodreads for this one, so if you're interested to see what I think about it, I'll link that down there. And then I have all my ebooks that I read that I'm going to try to pull up on my iPad. So, yeah, I ended up reading, I think, about 5 or so ebooks. So the first one I read, if I can get it to come up, is Rose of Prophecy by Hope Ann. This is the first in her Legends of Light series, which is a series of retellings that are kind of that have like they're kind of Christian based, and this one was a Beauty and the Beast retelling that, and I thought it was pretty good. It kind of more focused on like the it kind of more focused on how the power of love can um, influence people as opposed to um, the power of like whatever, as in the original story. It was I did enjoy it. I thought it was a really nice story. It wasn't quite as dark as the original Beauty and the Beast, and the Beast wasn't a bad guy like in the original story, who then turned good. So I still like the original because I think it was important to show that he could be a good person because of Beauty, whatever her name is in whatever retelling, Beauty's love. But anyway, I still really enjoyed this one. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And after that, I read Adela's Curse by Claire M. Vance Bach. Claire, if you ever watched these, I apologize for your name because I can't say it. But anyway, so this is the first book in her Fairies of Murnius series, and this is was about a fairy named Adela, and she ends up being cursed to have by this evil fairy or sorcerer, I think. Sorry, it's been a long time since I've read stuff, and my brain has just been completely melted the last couple weeks. But anyway, so she was cursed to have to kill this like the count of the area so that the evil guy could take over. And but of course, the guy isn't all that bad, so she really doesn't want to have to kill him. And it was just, I'm really bad at summarizing things today, but it was a really, really good story. I really liked Adela, and I really liked her character, her friend. I think, is it Damon? Damien? I think it's Damien. Um, yes. He was a really nice character as well. He was the kind of male character I just love because he's just so sweet and supportive, but he's also really awesome and heroic as well. And their relationship was really nice. I enjoyed reading about it a lot. And I really look forward to seeing where she takes the series. She's working on the second one now, I think, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes because I enjoyed this one and the characters quite a bit. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. After that, I read Beyond the Horizon by Jessica Wheaton. This is a World War II story, but it's also a retelling of Cinderella, which I thought was a really interesting combination because I don't find that many historical retellings, or like traditional historical retellings. So this one I actually really enjoyed. It was kind of a cross between like Cinderella and The Sound of Music, and that was actually, it was a really interesting way that she did this because she didn't put any magic or anything in it, but yet it still had a lot of it it still had some really good homages to the original story, and I really liked, and it was the whole thing with Germany and Austria and everything, and I liked to see how she portrayed that as well, and I think she did a really great job with the time period, and as a whole, and the historical accuracy, and I also really liked the boy in this too. who ended up being from a Nazi family. But of course he was a good guy. So anyway, this was a really, really nice story, and I gave it 4 to 5 stars. After that, I read Fox Tales by Erica Laurie, a paranormal Regency romance. This this one I kind of had a hard time getting through. I did enjoy it. I really liked the characters, and the plot line was really interesting too. Um, but there were just like the execution of it. It was just kind of confusing. Like it was very choppy a lot of times, and there seemed to be quite a lot of just like um, quite a lot of plot, and that was just thrown in there, just to make it just made it more confusing. But anyway, apart from that though, the characters were good. It felt like kind of a Jane Austen sort, or she did that for some parts. Some parts it felt like reading Jane Austen, and then other parts it felt like reading something more modern, and that was another problem I had. But as a whole, like I think the main character's name was Elizabeth, too. She was not a bad character. I actually really liked her, and I liked her brothers and her sister. I liked all her siblings. I liked the guy whose name I can't remember right now, and then his friend and his father too, because he was one of those funny, kind of eccentric old guys. But the other thing that confused me about this was that the it deals with like the Kitsune legends from Japan and a lot of Japanese folklore. But even though they're not really called kitsunes, they're called something else. Um, and it was just weird because it's set in England and there's fairy lore mixed in with that. And I don't know, I have a problem with mixing folklore unless there's like a reason for it. Like there was no real reason for this given. So it's just kind of like all thrown together as one, and it's kind of strange. But overall, it was still an enjoyable read. So I gave it like 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't the best I've read, and it could have done with another edit actually. Um, but overall, like it wasn't terrible. And finally, I read Cinderetti by Kendra E. Ardnick. This was a short story retelling of Cinderella as well, and but with a gender swapped main character. So it was Cinder Eddie or Edward as opposed to Cinderella. Um, and this one was actually really fun. I enjoyed it a lot. I haven't read a lot of gender swap Cinderella stories, and this one was really good. I liked how, like the elements that she changed because of the reverse in gender was really interesting and worked out really well. Because there was still all the little things from the original story, but they were kind of portrayed differently and in different ways, so that it worked, and it really did work, and I really enjoyed it. I think I gave this one 4 to 5 stars at the end. So those were all the books that I read in March, and I hope to have a good reading month in April as well. I just do not want to read any more bad books. Anyway, so yeah, that's all for now. I think I'm going to be combining my March and April book hauls because I didn't get so many books in March. So I figured I'll just combine those as well. So you'll see another video probably at the beginning of May. So yeah, I hope you all had a better reading month than I did. And don't read Winter Song because it's just not a good book. Sorry, but it's not. Anyway, so I hope you guys all had a great March. And I will see you again before too long. Bye.